invited you to this media briefing to announce and to brief you of the state of readiness regarding the preparation for the State of the Nation address that is scheduled for the 8th of February. That is next week, Thursday. The presiding officers that are here on both my sides, they don't need introduction, but I will just do so as a formality. The Speaker of the National Assembly, Mayor Baleka Mbete, the Chairperson of the National Council of Provinces, Mayor Thandi Modise. On my left, the Deputy Speaker of the National Assembly, Ntatele Chesa Zenodi, and the Deputy Chairperson of the National Council of Provinces, Ntatera Seriditao. They are also accompanied by the Acting Secretary to Parliament, Mbete Jawa, as well as the Secretary of the National Council of Provinces, Advocate Modibedi Pindela. So all of them, they will be engaging with you with regard to the state of readiness after the presentation of the statement, which at this point I would like to invite the Speaker of the National Assembly to come and present.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mutapa. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen of the media and colleagues from various offices of Parliament. May I also welcome the presiding officers who are really the hosts here and will share the response to any questions of clarification that will come after we've presented the statement. As you know, I don't normally enjoy reading a statement, and therefore I'll try and just go through each page of what's contained in the statement, which will be circulated to yourselves, which also has an annexure that has more details on the guests from different categories that have been invited to the State of the Nation event. As we normally do annually, we've decided on what we believe is an appropriate theme for this State of the Nation, based on the fact that we're paying homage to the life and legacy of our remarkable Nelson Mandela, who was our leader, our president, the first president of a democratic South Africa. And the theme is making your future work better, learning from Madiba. And of course, we do this because we were inspired. And here we take from a quotation of Madiba himself at the first democratic elections when he was historically inaugurated on the 24th May, when he addressed the first Sona. The words that he used was that we were inspired by the single vision of creating a people-centered society, which our Parliament continues to be inspired by. Of course, as we normally do, on this occasion, we bring together each of the three arms of the state under one roof. And as a result, we work together specifically with the JCPS cluster that plan with us in terms of the detail of the logistical arrangements in preparation for the State of the Nation occasion. We want to explain upfront that on issues of security measures, we are not alone as Parliament. We work with the security cluster of government. And therefore, on those matters that reside in the various ministries and departments that deal with different components of the JCPS cluster that is chaired by Minister Mapisa-Nqakula, there will be specific messages and perhaps clarifications and announcements made from that side of the executive. But otherwise, we are planning together to make sure that the State of the Nation address occasion goes well. We must say that the arrangements are normally the same. There is more attention being paid than on an daily basis that we do have the ordinary police that work around the precincts of Parliament. But on this occasion, because there's more interest, there are more people applying to be outside the precincts of Parliament. There will be more planning. In fact, there have been already interactions in terms of the city also being part of receiving applications from various players in society wanting to be part of the demonstrations and all manner of activity that happens around Parliament. And Parliament, we, the presiding officers of Parliament, are not involved in planning and in fact engaging with various players and stakeholders in society on those specific activities. Our attention is on and inside the precincts of Parliament, very specifically inside the plenary hall, where the two houses would sit together, presided over by the executive authority, the Speaker of the National Assembly, and the Chairperson of the National Council of Provinces. This, of course, I must also say, is precipitated by the President approaching the presiding officers and asking for there to be arranged the joint sitting in order for the head of state, the President, to deliver to the people of South Africa through Parliament the State of the Nation address. We then always arrange that, over the weekend, we prepare, and the following week on Tuesday and Wednesday, we would have a debate based on the statement that the President would have delivered in the House. As we have said, in fact, on this occasion, all of us under one roof, but also there are a range of sectors of society representatives that form the integral part of the ceremonial State of the Nation activities. So there would be representatives that have been invited from the Chapter 9 institutions. You will also have the parade, the ceremonial parade, exhibiting the military traditions. So it is that kind of occasion. Even by the way people get dressed, it is a celebratory mood. It is an occasion where even members of the military that are on the precincts are ceremonial. They are not armed. They are ceremonial. I say this specifically to highlight the fact that much as last year there might have been an incident of 4 individuals that were found later on to have come from the military without the knowledge of the presiding officers. That matter, in fact, is, as we speak, in court. we normally have only the ceremonial guard, and those are the military personnel that will be, and in fact have been invited, as usual, to be part of the ceremonial marches and so on, and performances on that specific day. There's, from a number of secondary schools in the Western Cape, a junior guard, members of a junior guard of 100 learners. Also, you have 100 representatives from 3 civil society organizations that work on gender-based violence from around Cape Town. And there are 9 eminent persons selected by provincial legislatures in recognition of their individual contributions to our democracy. And you will find the details of who those are and what their backgrounds are in the annexures that you will get attached to the statement. So there's a total of 1,120 guests that have been invited to form part of this important occasion. Maybe I should highlight that there are representatives, there are heads of foreign mission, the diplomatic corps, representatives of the House of Traditional Leaders, the Mayor of Cape Town, representatives from civil society, I've mentioned those, and there are people coming from former presiding officers of Parliament, like Dr. Frini Jinwala, Ambassador Mahlangu. There's also the President of the Pan-African Parliament, the President of the Southern Africa Development Community Parliamentary Forum, who is otherwise the Speaker of Angola. So the joint sitting will, of course, be a special sitting, unlike the everyday sittings of either of the houses. And it has one item on the agenda, which is to deliver the statement of the President to the nation, whereby he spells out how far the state has delivered on the various matters that were part of the promise last year, and how far we are, and also gives an idea of how in the next 12 months we are proceeding to focus on specific areas. So on behalf of Parliament, the presiding officers also note and wish to just make reference to the risks that are part of the background against which we are having to plan for this year's Sona, and that is the water challenges that the province is experiencing. Whoever has that challenge, I'll also sort mine out. Well, we know that the Department of Water Affairs and the Department of Public Works are seized with these issues, but from Parliament's side itself, there would be specific ways in which we try and keep down the population for that specific day. So although all workers will wake up in the morning and go to their offices, at a certain point in the day, there would be a whole lot of them that go home because they no longer have a role within the precinct, and therefore there's no need for us to keep the numbers of who is present higher than we need. Then I come to an important matter, and that is the matter of the budget for our activities. We have to give you the information that is accurate about the actual spend over the years of this 5th Parliament, because otherwise you can be given wrong information. In 2014, when in fact there were two events where State of the Nation addresses were delivered. The amount budgeted originally was 9,230,000, but the actual spend ended up being 6,356,000. In 2015, the budgeted amount was 4,098,100,000, but actual spend was 3,156,000. In 2016, the budgeted amount was 3,946,000, and the actual spend was 2,270,000. For this year, we had budgeted 4,300,000. With the preceding years cited, we expect actual spend to be well below what we have budgeted, as we are telling you. Because as you have seen, we do manage consciously to keep the costs down, and a major way how we have dealt with this matter is that we have done away with the dinner, where we have to feed a whole lot of people. Lastly, ladies and gentlemen of the media and other members and colleagues, the address will be broadcast live on radio and television and at public viewing sites in provinces. We appreciate the continued media interest in the address. In fact, some 1,066 members of the media applied for accreditation this time. They represent about 140 local, international, major, national, and community print, broadcast, and online media. But of course, we have a limited number of seats in our gallery, and therefore, that number of people from the media who had showed interest has had to come down so that we are able to accommodate only 66, Mutapa, am I right, members of the media. But we hope that even through those 66, they will be representative enough for the public to still be helped, even though they are physically away from the actual site of Parliament, for them to know what's going on. Ladies and gentlemen of the media, thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Indeed, in the gallery, there will only be 66 members of the media that will be given, will be accommodated, and the rest will be within the precincts. Earlier, when we started, I was introducing some of the colleagues who are accompanying the presiding officers. I was just looking here on my immediate left. I didn't see Mr. Klaso. Masibulele Klaso is the Secretary for the National Assembly. Welcome. Thank you. A comprehensive statement has been circulated together with the annexure of some of the guests that have been invited, prominent guests that have been invited, it is not all the guests. If we were to put all the guests that have been invited, it will be very, very, very bulky. So we'll just continue to give you updates as we draw closer to the State of the Nation address. I'm going to open the floor for questions and to say that the presiding officers can feel free to respond from where they are seated using the microphones. And if you can just give us your name as well as the media house that you are coming from. You'll be the first, sir, yeah, and then followed by you, Gail. You'll be the third, Anika, and then Mr. Msia, and then you'll be are you the fifth? Marianne, fifth, yeah. Let me take, that will be the first round, in that order.
Thank you, Mulato. Wendell from Reuters. If the presiding officers can please confirm that as things currently stand, the President Zuma will be delivering the February 8th address. If that answer is in the affirmative, if they can please give us a sense of if they are concerned that it will be disrupted as previous few years have been disrupted. And if that concern has perhaps prompted them as custodians of this august institution to possibly either gently suggest or fiercely demand that the President should reconsider addressing. Thank you.
The second hand. Gail, were you the second? Yeah. You were the third. Who was the second?
That's fine. Thanks very much. Just on the, in relation to the State of the Nation address, Speaker, the letter from the EFF asking for a motion of no confidence to be scheduled ahead of the State of the Nation address. And I understand there's also been correspondence from other parties as well, whether that is going to be entertained as a possibility before the State of the Nation address, and if so, what the implications will be for Sona. And then just relating to the budget, I mean, these figures are clearly what Parliament itself spends, and it's commendable that the price has gone down. Do you have figures on what is spent by the security cluster in terms of the security arrangements that they make? Because it's all about the same event and would give us a better picture of how much money Sona actually costs, especially given the possibility of disruption this year if the current president delivers it. Thanks.
Okay. Let's go to the second. Joe?
Yeah, thank you, sir. Joseph Musia from SABC. My question relates also to the issue of the budget. As far as I could hear, the speaker stated the years up to 2016. I didn't get the figure to 2017 for 2017. And the other question relates to...
that figure is in the statement, I think.
Is it? Okay.
Second last paragraph.
Okay, fine. And my other question is, have the presiding officers received any correspondence from either the presidency or the ruling party, the ANC, to request a postponement of the State of the Nation address?
Fourth, Marianne.
Good morning, Marianne Merton, Daily Maverick. Two questions with regards to security arrangements. You indicated that that is up to the security cluster. You held a meeting with State Security Minister Bongo on Tuesday. Would you be able to clarify on exactly what was discussed? And also, are the presiding officers of Parliament confident that this year is not yet another year where the presiding officers are caught off guard, be it jamming devices, be it armed with assault rifles, military personnel. On that issue, the speaker mentioned that 4 people are in court with relation to that matter, arising out of last year's Sona. Would the presiding officers please explain details, if they are able to, around that? And why was there nothing published in the ATC with regards to the defense minister's investigation, as the presiding officers had asked the defense minister last year to investigate? Clearly there has been an investigation. You say court action is currently underway. There must have been some communication from the defense minister to the presiding officers. If you could give us an update on that, please. Thank you.
Because
Ms. Larson?
and the perception
Thanks,
which is
Mulato.
given to the people
A
outside
bit of a
there, they
sidebar
know
issue,
that,
but since we have the
members of
speaker here,
parliament, they don't know their work.
perhaps I could ask, please.
That is an insult.
The complaint from Advocate
The
Vanara
exercise which is
about
supposed to take place
Minister
at the moment
Bongo
of a
allegedly offering him a
must have the
bribe
book
to
itself.
throw the ESCOM inquiry, please.
And we must
Could you
have
update
these
us on
amendments
the
separately.
status of that
But with
investigation?
the
Thank you.
gadget, that means you must open this page and you close that page. You can compare.
Okay.
For an example, if you go
that
to
was the
court,
first
those
round.
people who are having a legal background,
No.
if you go to court, you have full documents
Start
so
with
that you
the
can
deputy
compare
speaker.
in front of you. But you can't tell maybe the presiding
the
officer to
deputy
say,
chair.
wait, I'm still opening another page. For how long is it going to take? We need not to be undermined. Whatever level, we need not to be undermined. That message must be taken there. That, please.
Let me start by adding my
no
voice of
matter how they've
welcome
said,
to
yes,
members
it
of the
is
media,
in our advantage to send
and to
us
say that
this
the
information in
occasion
advance so
that
we can
we
read
are
and equip
preparing for
ourselves. But
is also a
practically,
very
we are doing the
important
job on the
public
ground.
and civic
That is
education
impossible.
opportunity and a
How can you
communication
compare this
opportunity
thick
for us
document and
as the
some of these
legislature
amendments?
to continually
People mustn't insult us.
provide information
That's
to the
come to-
public
it must
out
come to an
there
end.
about the nature of what we are
Else
doing here and
Come
so
to
on.
and push. If they pursue us, we can
There's
take
no
this
question
matter
that
up
it
as
is
well.
also a very huge relationship building for all of us, including, for example, members of the diplomatic corps, the Latin American and Caribbean, for example, will be having lunch here. The members of the Africa group of ambassadors do the same, so do the European ambassadors. So it becomes an opportunity for them to connect those who do not regularly connect during the year. So as a relationship building exercise, it's a huge contribution to good relationships all around.
Let's go back to the department.
I also thought we must not never leave out the fact that it's a huge economic impact into the city.
5 minutes. Okay.
And want to add on the comments around the water that members of the media should help us to communicate to our guests.
Taken the liberty to
Please use water adequately when you are here, including where you come from. This is a serious disaster that requires national response. So all of us must act responsibly around that.
There was a comment with regard to why below, which says guidelines and desired
I'm not
outcomes.
aware of
This was a comment from the city of Cape Town, which says that
any
if
request
the minister is empowered
by
to
the
make
presiding
these,
officers here next to
requirement
the
for
leadership
vehicles and facilities to
to the
accommodate
president
the
not
needs
to
of
come.
targeted
We have
categories of
received his
passengers,
request
it will have financial
to address
implications,
Parliament,
that will be-
and
would
that
create
has
a
been
problem.
approved. This
And
is
the
why these
suggestion they have put
preparations
forward is that
are
rather
in
than
place.
make it a requirement, they should be changed
It
to
cannot
guidelines
be
and
correct
desired
that
outcomes.
because there's a
And
threat
as a
of
department, we
disruption,
agreed to that.
that we
So that
tell
is
the president, the head of state, not to come to speak.
Because it's subject to the availability of funds as well.
What we should be doing is to dissuade anybody from disrupting work of Parliament, no matter how strongly they feel. It's a democratic institution. There's a democratic process of dealing these things. We've just come out of a programming committee, and as far as we are concerned,
this one here, Chair, is in relation to
the occasion must be respected.
What the City of Cape
It's an
Town
opportunity
had,
that brings three arms of the state together.
To say that,
and we expect them to be here, and their safety must be uppermost among us. That disruption leads to consent, but also even when there are injuries of people, when people are hurt, when property is damaged, it's civic irresponsibility of the first order that should not agree to, even by our silence, those who should be commenting negatively on that conduct. So we take exception, quite frankly, to threats of disruption. They should be rejected with the contempt they deserve. They are not in their nature necessarily, especially because they are a disruption, as it is correctly described, an appropriate way to protest in a democratic institution such as this one. Protest has been organized, as the Speaker has said, and the city, working with the security cluster, would have given permission to whoever they have given permission to protest, because we are a democratic country, and that must be encouraged, as long as people do it within the law. Any use of illegal ways of expressing your views must be dealt with appropriately, must be rejected. We must say so in advance, because that is important. We must not hedge our bets. We must not, what's the word now? Be on the fence about issues that in their nature undermine the political democratic dispensation that we have by conducting ourselves in problematic manners. I do not know the question around, the other questions I think the presiding officers will take on. Yeah, okay, I thought I should raise that. Maybe also to say that the preparations as are in place now, in the way in which we are looking at them, are intended to, and the meetings that we are holding all around, are intended to create the smoothest transition beyond now to the next phase of the debate of the State of the Nation address. Parliament is a platform for creating an opportunity for important public issues to be debated. It's doing so now, and so everything must be done to ensure that all political parties will have an opportunity to debate that in the House, as is required and as is expected of everyone. So each meetings, including with the security cluster, are intended to do that, so that we take as necessary precautionary measures as we can within our ability to do so, to do that. So I would imagine that the Tuesday meeting referred to falls into that category of meetings intended to do that. At an appropriate time, I believe the Speaker has said some of the members of the security cluster, ministries and so on, may find it appropriate to communicate one thing or another. Yeah, thanks.
Thank you very much, Speaker, and welcome to members of the media. We have just received a clear confirmation from the City of Cape Town that the precinct of National Parliament, as we know that is a national key point, would not be affected by the crisis that we are faced with. And there are, of course, contingency plans put in place to avert any inconvenience to people would be attending the State of the Nation. Mine, Speaker, is just on one specific question, whether if the ANC had written or Parliament has received a specific letter from the ANC requesting a postponement. And my response, or the response, I think it's only fair to say that the ANC is on record in saying that the matter is on the agenda. It has been discussed at the level of the leadership of the African National Congress. But so far as the State of the Nation address, the current head of state is the head of state of the Republic of South Africa, and therefore is expected to deliver the State of the Nation address. So in simple terms, no. There's no such correspondence. And why I'm saying it is already in the public domain. I mean, the Secretary General of the ANC has confirmed that, to say, as the African National Congress, they are engaging with the particular matter. And as we know, as further communicated, is that there are further and consistent engagement with the current president of the ANC and the president of the Republic. So we don't need to panic around that one, insofar as the ANC is confirmed. It's a matter for the ANC, and let's leave it for the ANC, and let's focus our energy on what the responsibility of Parliament would be. The Deputy Speaker responded to the issue of our meeting with Minister Bongo. It's a normal thing. I mean, there are consistent meetings that are taking place with all ministries, whether it be at a cluster level or at an individual level. There is that consistent engagement. Perhaps there might be just that, I don't know how to put it, but just because of the State of the Nation address, therefore, there are other things that might have been discussed. We have met with the Ministry of Finance. We have met with many ministers because our responsibility as Parliament is to hold them accountable, is to consistently do our oversight on them. So it would not be fair that every time we meet with the minister around a specific matter that has got to do with accountability or oversight and so forth, we jump on top of the roof and so on. So these are consistent and matters that we consistently engage with them. Another specific question was around something that happened in the Ministry or that involves Honorable Bongo. I think it would be unfair to expect presiding officers to engage on a matter that it's in the hand of the department and other agencies that are responsible to investigate certain things and so forth. Speaker, I just thought that I must just raise those three issues. Thank you very much.
I hope it is not interpreted as being sexist if I respond to you sitting. Good morning. There is a question on the EFF asking for a sitting before Sona. That matter, yes, the Speaker has received such a request. I think she's considering. She did respond to them when she got the letter, but I think she might want to elaborate. That falls completely out of our interest as the NCOP because constitutionally we have absolutely no power to meddle in that affair. But you also asked whether the presiding officers were considering the request from another party to postpone Sona. No, we're not, because I think the members of the National Assembly wrote to the Speaker of the National Assembly They did not write to us, and Sona is a joint sitting. So there is no way I'm going to, on behalf of the NCOP, discuss a matter which we have not been invited to discuss. So as far as the NCOP is concerned, we are on schedule, we are ready. It's Sona on the 8th of February. You have asked us whether we have an idea of how much the security cluster spends on Sona. It would be interesting to do the analysis, but frankly, where I sit, I don't know. But that expense should be easy to get because it should be reflected in the budgets of the defense. It should be, because when you bring the ceremonial or the naval band, you do incur some petrol. It might not be that much because they are not far. The naval band is based in Simonstown. I hope I'm still right. So it would be an issue of conveying them to and fro. We should be able to get by that. All we focused on was to say that, as we promised as Parliament, we would bring down the costs of Sona. Marianne, you asked us to tell you what we discussed with the ministers, with the security cluster ministers. When Sona is convened, it brings together all people. It actually creates if you don't plan properly, you can have a security disaster. Because you've got all the heads of the states under one roof. You've got your most important departments and entities of the states under one roof. So if Parliament were to say it will not discuss a gathering of this importance under its roof, convened at a chamber which is designated as a national key point, we would not be doing ourselves any favor. And remember, it is not Parliament deciding to host or to convene Sona. It is done as per the request, constitutionally so, by the head of state, in his capacity, not as the head of the executive. So it complicates issues, and therefore such a meeting between ourselves and the security cluster ministers is important. I can say to you that we have sharply raised the issues of the signal blockages. We have raised the issues of the 4 armed army personnel that we were not aware of last year, very sharply. We have the undertaking by the security cluster ministers that we will not have a repeat of what took place. So on that we are very clear. There shall not be guns with our knowledge. If there is without our knowledge, I think this time it might be the presiding officers that will really take issue with the matter. We will not interfere with what happens outside the precinct of Parliament because we have no authority to tell, for instance, the public order police when marches are called for not to be there. It will happen. It is without our interference, but if anything that is bad comes out of that and it is brought to our attention, we will ask questions on behalf of whoever will bring the matters to our attention. I think we can confirm that we have absolutely no intention as presiding officers to approach any president to say, you must not come and give the state of the nation. Remember that for us, it is a president or the president that writes to us. It is not President so-and-so. So whoever is president will address Sona. That's all we know. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the questions from members of the media. I think most questions have been covered. I will only say that we will have yet another meeting of the JCPS cluster chaired by the Minister of Defense with us in this coming week, just to have a final look at matters that will have been raised last week when we last met with them at the level of the technical level where Dr. Glube and our acting STP deal with the issues with their colleagues, counterparts, as well as when we meet also as the political leaders, in other words, the executive authorities in the various portfolios, we meet as a bigger meeting so that we can make sure that there is no angle from which we have not looked at the state of readiness. The last issue is the question of Advocate Vanara's matter, which of course is not about the State of the Nation address. However, because it has been raised, we will answer that the matter was taken up immediately that he submitted his affidavit by the Speaker directly to the head of state because he had just been appointed a minister. I think it was 2 weeks thereafter. So we took the issue straight physically to the head of state, to the president. We have not yet had a report back. There's usually a process, of course, to deal with such matters. So that's where the matter is. We are right at the beginning of the year, so everything, some things have lapsed, others are going to be made to wake up so that we can deal further with them in this last year before the end of the 5th term. So thank you very much, Mutapa.
There's a question on why we have not ATC'd the report from the Minister of Defense on the 4 people.
There is a question about the ATCing or not on the matter of the defense minister. We will look into that issue and we will still take the opportunity to give the necessary information the best way we can so that that issue will not just linger in the air.
Thank you very much, Presiding Officers, for the responses. Can I please take the second and the last round? Thank you very much. I see Mr. Kalata, Paul. Oh, only 2. Okay, no, that's good. Third, you'll be the third. So that will be the last round. Is there a 4th one? Where? Oh, you are, okay, no, I didn't see. Yeah, those 4 hands for the last round,
right. In that order. Thank you very much. Good morning, everybody. My name is Lukhanya Khalat. I work for the SABC. If I may just come back to the issue of the motion of no confidence. I think it was a request by the EFF. If not, is there Currently, also in the, I think it was the programming meeting just before we came to this briefing, the chief whip of the majority party had mentioned something about a possible date that is currently under discussion between the speaker and the new chief whip. Can you and the chief whip? Can you just confirm that for us, please, ma'am? About a new date for a motion of no confidence and whether or not it relates to the judgment by the Constitutional Court last year. All right, thank you.
Good morning, Paul Vecchiato from Bloomberg. Madam Speaker, Madam Chair. Just to, whilst I accept your authorities in the precinct, the events of the day do affect the centre of Cape Town. Last year, the city issued a statement saying they would no longer cooperate on Sona. Have you had any discussions with them about this? Then there's the issue of extraordinary security measures. Several times in the past, we were assured that there were going to be no extraordinary security measures, and we found signal jammers in the National Assembly. We had riot police units in the parking lots down below that came out. We had policemen disguised as parliamentary security coming onto the National Assembly floor. No action was taken against those members, by the way. We've also had, I believe you've been in contact with the South African National Editors Forum on the handling of journalists here. So a lot of those things, so how are you going to deal with all of those issues? And then finally, can you have any special sitting of the National Assembly and the Provincial House immediately before Sona? Thank you.
Paul, can you repeat the last question?
Special sitting before the State of the Nation.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Deputy Speaker. You'll be the last.
Jan Lange from Rapport newspaper. Madam Chair, the rand has weakened significantly over the past 2 years before the ANC held its conference in December. Significantly, which means there was a significant outflow of money out of the country. Since the ANC conference, where the ANC elected a new president, the rand has weakened by something like 18 or 19%, which means the opposite. As you said, Sona is a significant event. The weakening over the past 2 years was mainly attributed, as we all know, to events concerning the sitting president. And Sona may very well change that trend in the value of the currency, which many people regard as South Africa's share price. Now, your decision that Sona must go ahead, the requests by the DA and the EFF against Sona being held now, and I think the EFF wants another motion of no confidence in the president before Sona is held. On what basis do you decide? Do you consider this issue? And if you don't consider, who should consider this issue? That the damage that Sona, the budget for Sona may be much bigger than the amounts that you mentioned in this press release.
Yeah, okay. I'm not sure whether you got the questions from Mr. De Lange. I'm personally, speaking for myself, I'm a little bit confused by some of the questions.
You want me to explain?
Yeah, if you were able to summarize and just ask specific questions.
Yes.
Yeah.
Do you consider issues like the damage to the country that Sona by the sitting president may cause in terms of the currency, the credibility of the country? When you receive requests like the one from the DA to have Sona postponed and the EFF I don't know if you've received that yet. They want a motion of no confidence before Sona is out.
All right. Gay?
Thanks. I'm largely covered. I just want to get clarity from the Speaker herself, though, that as far as she knows, the President, whoever it is going to be addressing Sona next week. We're not sure. She's in concurrence with the NCOP chair on that, if she could say that. And then just following on the Reuters, Wendell's question earlier and Jan's now, I mean, I think that it is a reasonable point because we know that there's going to be disruption and upheaval of the nature that we've seen in past Sonas if the sitting president delivers on Thursday. And I think what we're wanting to hear is whether this is part of the consideration or concern of the presiding officers, given the expense of paying for damage, the damage to the image of Parliament, the country. The Deputy Speaker referred to earlier this great public relations building exercise that Sona can be. So I think that's what we're wanting to hear from you. Thanks.
Yeah, no, I can see you're protesting. I've got no intention of overlooking you, even though you were not initially on the first round, on the second round. You'll be the last, Marianne.
Thank you very much. It is just a couple of clarification questions. The one is the Speaker with regards to the 2016 Parliament budget on Sona said it was 2.27 million that was actually spent. The statement mentions that it was 2,032,000 that was spent. I just need an indication which is the correct figure. And then a question for clarification to the Deputy NCOP Chairperson. When you say that Parliament precinct as national key point is not affected by the crisis that we are faced with, would I be correct in thinking that you are talking about the water crisis? And perhaps you could clarify your comments that measures are in place to avoid inconvenience. Is the water crisis seen as an inconvenience to Parliament? Thank you.
Okay. Should we start this side again, and then we'll go to the...
No, thank you very much for the specific question. To me in particular, yes, it is with regard to the question of water. And I want to link that with a question, I can't remember who asked it, around the cooperation between the Western Cape and Parliament. That cooperation, I must say, it has been strengthened by this letter. It proves that there is a cooperation. I avoided reading out the letter, but it is a confirmation coming from the municipality or from the city of Cape Town to say that Parliament is a national key point, would not be affected as such. Although certain measures will be put in place. Around the issue of inconvenience, yes, of course, it is related to water more than any other thing, insofar as Sona is concerned. So don't be stressed about that and think maybe there are undertones in relation to that. So I think that was the specific clarity that you needed, not unless I left out any other thing. Okay, thank you very much.
The nature of the law, the Disaster Management Act, would make it impossible for the city not to cooperate. It is a requirement. Disasters, unfortunately, do not respect boundaries of a political, geographic, or whatever nature. So they have to be managed collectively, and this is why we are glad that there has been cooperation. That was possibly, shall I call it, an emotional reaction to someone which had no authority over the city itself, but not an actual expression of intention to pull out. It affects residents around here in a big way, and so the city has to take proactive steps to work with Parliament to host the kind of event that we do have to vote. There's no question of the impact of decisions that Parliament, being the center of political life in the country, so to speak, that it will have, including on markets. But that can't be the basis on which we make all decisions. And also, it would, this is a multi-party institution. So the presiding officers act also in the interest of the institution as agreed on by all political parties so that we effect the decisions that we have. If we have any anxiety about what might happen and so on, which we do, because it is our responsibility to ensure the safety of everyone, so we have to be anxious that we can always optimistic that we can persuade others not to disrupt the work of Parliament, however strongly they feel. We have strong feelings around a number of issues that we insist the business of these institutions, however robust they are, must be conducted properly with respect to this institution. And that the decision finally will be taken by the political party that is involved. The African National Congress will take its decision on the matter that we are discussing, on the matter of the president. Parliament itself now has not taken that decision and will not take that decision before Sona. Unless an extraordinary event happens, and if it happens, then that will be the instance. But so far, the preparations that are underway are so that we have the smoothest State of the Nation address that we can have, in spite of the threats that we have. It is realistic also for us to not, I want to repeat my earlier statement, and I think it's a disruptive actions that lead to the disruption of work. If we yield on them, there will be no place to stop yielding every time someone threatens, bellows with aggressive intentions, and we yield to that nonsense. We are not, frankly, ready to yield to that nonsense. And I want to express it strongly in those terms, because I think we have to be contemptuous of wrongdoing in the state across the board, but we should respect the law. We should respect our constitution. We should respect the institutions that we're taking. And so we think that in acting in that manner, we are not unmindful of the impact that we are going to. It is precisely because we would like to see an atmosphere that generates confidence in the rest of the public that we will treat every person inside the institution in the fairest manner that we will treat any other individual outside here. That's our political and legal responsibility. So it would be strange, really, if we were to yield to those threats of disruption. The impact is no question. We have to be concerned about those things. We would like, you see, the fluctuation of the rand has a positive impact on some part of the economy and a negative impact on the other. When it strengthens and so on, has a different impact on parts of the economy. So we would like to see an economy that is sound across a number of indicators. And so whatever we can contribute to ensure the smooth running of these institutions, and the political parties at the appropriate time take the decisions that they have to take. We have to go as planned with the intention to, we do not assume the state of the nation is the line. because it will be debated. That's what the public wants to do, to debate that, to debate the contents by political parties in here. This is an opportunity that we are creating. Until perhaps we are confronted with a reality that something else happens, we don't see it in the horizon yet, I think. So we are really suggesting that things will go as planned. Madam Speaker, can I break a bit of tradition here? To call a special sitting before Sona is unlikely to happen. I don't know what is the likelihood of that. What persuasive argument exists now? I can't hear it. Given the things we've just laid out before you, the preparations that have already done, and so on and so on. And then, in addition to the State of the Nation, have a special sitting? No. The factors that is driven by the preparations that have been done so outweigh any reason for us to organize a special sitting. It would be the most unprecedented thing to happen now. Weighing what is before us, I don't see how that will happen. That's just my personal opinion. I'm ready to be clobbered by the presiding officer sitting on my right here. Thank you very much.
Thank you again. I think the difficulty of the question is that you are forcing us to consider matters political which are actually outside our control. When sittings are held, and yes, we must consider the safety of the people. Part of the reason we meet up with the security cluster is because there are risks when you bring together the people that we bring together. But that sitting is at the invitation of the President, Sona. That invitation carries one item on the agenda, and that agenda is not ours. It is the President's agenda. Any other joint sitting is our doing. That we can change and whatever. So until the person who says, on such and such a date, please organize this, says to us, we want you to remove, we want you to postpone, we cannot do so. The other matter is what Paul raises, and I understand where you're coming from. But remember that when life and property is threatened within the precinct of Parliament, that the security does not need us to say to them, you can now enter and save this life and save that and that. They will come in. But I do hear the point that you are raising, that it does seem like an overkill to have members who are really trained to use a certain amount of force within the areas where they shouldn't be. It is a matter that we have been discussing. It does seem that the recommendation we have always had is have the South African Police Service. And you only have the South African Police Service in support of the Parliamentary Protection Service when you need them. So that is our line. If anything happens, which means that there is a situation which is beyond the surgeon and the Esha, then we will call on what is available immediately to Parliament, and it is the Parliamentary Protection Services. So I hear the concerns that you are raising, that Parliament should not be seen to be turning itself into security knots. Hear you. We have been raising that. Will we have surprises? We can't say we will not have surprises, but we have raised it very sharply that we do not want the security ministers or whoever is above them to make any decisions concerning the precincts of Parliament without us knowing. And we are also upfront to say that we will not allow any of the things that has happened in the last 3 years to happen in Parliament. There will not be any blocking of signals. We will not have armed army personnel in the precinct of Parliament. If it does happen, let it be brought to our attention so that we deal with it. The questions that are left, Speaker, have to do with what I think the Deputy Speaker addressed, issues around whether or not we will have a special sitting.
I underline the answer the Deputy Speaker has given on that particular question, and the answer is no, we're not going to have a special sitting before the joint sitting to receive the Sona address. To add to what the chairperson was saying about the issue of what informs the role of the security services, and I'm talking about people other than the Parliamentary Protection Services. There is a provision in the Powers and Privileges Act that says, should a situation develop where there is a threat of violence, enough of a threat of violence, or actual violence in the house, the security forces have the responsibility legally to intervene and play their role as expected by the law and the Constitution. And it's only on those grounds. And in terms of the rules that, in fact, we presented on Monday in Johannesburg when we dealt with stakeholders, including journalists, as well as when we were having a more focused and smaller discussion and exchange with members of the South African National Editors Forum. We did point out the situation that informs the conduct sometimes of members of the security forces. We've also talked about what we have done to raise those relevant issues with the security cluster very sharply. And in fact, as the chairperson has said, we have cooperation from their side that those issues must be avoided, and that in fact those members, security members, that might need more training will be given that training. But under Mulato Mutapa, the matters that arose last year in terms of the handling of journalists have been thoroughly canvassed. And of course, he is here himself to, engage further on those matters. On the specific matter of the 2016 budget, apparently I skipped a line. So the correct information is In 2016, the budgeted amount was 3,946,000, but the actual spend was 2,032,000. That's the correct information. Thank you very much.
Can I? There's, just to add on what Ndadetau said, Parliament does not just see the lack of water and the cooperation with the city around the water issues as an inconvenience or a temporary thing. In fact, Parliament is in the process of coming out with a comprehensive plan, because it's not just about Sona. It is about, first of all, the people of Cape Town. It is about the functioning of all the institutions of Parliament and the legislature. The legislature has a very comprehensive plan that I know of, and I have seen. Parliament is in the process of working on its own plan, because you must know that most of the members of staff of Parliament are people who come from outside, who are full-time at work here, who might not even be able to be in those queues standing for the 5 liters. So we're looking at a comprehensive plan which will be about Parliament, will be about the parliamentary villages, will also look at the welfare of the staff of Parliament. I think when that plan is ready, we will publicize it.
Yeah, no, with regard to the treatment of journalists that played itself out during the last State of the Nation address, that is a matter that we've been faced with. We have engaged towards the end of last year, had a productive meeting with the leadership of the Parliamentary Press Gallery Association, where all those things were flagged, and we agreed on how do we move forward to ensure that we avert those. We also had last week, we had a meeting with the South African National Editors Forum in Joburg. That meeting was led by both the Speaker and the Chairperson of the NCOP. And also we flagged all those things and we agreed on a going forward what should be the rules of engagement to ensure that whatever incident that happened previously does not recur in this State of the Nation address next week. So all those things will be working very well together with our colleagues in the PGA, the SANEF, as well as all other journalists that will be here. So we are hopeful and confident that we will not have similar incidents as they have happened previously. So at this point, let me thank the presiding officers, the Speaker, the Chairperson, Deputy Speaker, Deputy Chairperson for engaging with you, and thank you very much also for your attendance. I'm told that there are refreshments on the left side of the right side. This side, there are refreshments if you can help yourself on your way out.
And of course, there we have it. That is just the media press briefing as to what we can expect come next week's Sona address, touching on the issues of the security contingent as well as the possible disruptive threats that have been made by parties in the past, commenting on that as well as the security cluster, and Thandi Modise confirming there that everything will go ahead as normal. Well, Chairperson of the NCOP, Thandi Modise, says that the State of the Nation address will go ahead as planned come next week, Thursday. Let's have a look at that.
Question on the EFF asking